Well, members of the Jewish community around the world here in Jacksonville, South Georgia, are celebrating the first night of Passover this evening. The 8-day festival commemorates the emancipation of the Israelites from slavery in ancient Egypt. And there are rituals and certain foods that they'll eat at what they call the Seder. Joining us this morning with a look at the holiday, Rabbi Joshua Lief from the temple congregation Ahavath Chesed. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
You know, it's ironic because you talk about Moses wandering with the Jews for 40 years through the deserts to escape slavery. There's a kind of servitude that we have today in 2016, a servitude toward life. And if you were to look at practical applications in this day and age, it's also a time to assess what's going on in our life and escape those things that are tying us down.
No question. At the Seder, we famously ask 4 questions. Our children stand up and lead us, and we talk about how this night is different from all of the nights. And the answer is that it's only different if we make it different. It's only different if we do something special, if we take a break from the normal craziness and hecticness of our lives and create a window of holy time in the midst of our otherwise all too busy day.
And we tell the story of that Exodus as a foundation for making those changes. And the dinner itself and the telling of the story is called the Seder. And Seder means order.
Indeed. There are specific foods to be eaten in a specific order. There are the specific parts of the story that we tell, the journey from slavery all the way through to redemption. We recall and recount, and we are directed by our tradition to see ourselves as if we were there, what it would be like to make the journey from degradation to redemption, not only that they did, but that we are still doing so.
And this book that is here is called the Hagaddah, and it is the story of Passover, and it basically dictates the order. And this here is the Seder plate, and some of the foods that you see right now have ritualistic meaning. For instance, the lamb shank.
The lamb shank represents the paschal lamb itself. The Israelites are told in the book of Exodus to gather together with their friends and family, take a lamb, slaughter it, put the blood on the doorposts of the house, and that God will have the 10th plague pass over their houses, hence the name of the holiday. And so the shank represents the lamb. The horseradish root are bitter herbs to remind us of the bitterness of slavery. The egg, a symbol of springtime, birth, and renewal, a symbol borrowed by our Christian friends for the festival of Easter, similarly celebrating renewal in the spring. We have our greens, representing springtime as well, and the charoset, a sweet and sticky mixture that reminds us not only of the hard work that the Israelites had to do in slavery, but also the sweetness as we celebrate the festival today. And of course, the matzah, our unleavened bread that the Israelites are directed to eat, it's the simplest of foods, just flour and water, a very simple mixture, no leavening. And it reminds us that simplicity is sometimes the key to our own redemption in lives, to get rid of those things that distract us and pull us away from where we should be.
And the reason there's no leavening is as the Jews wandered through the desert and they tried to stay one step ahead of the Egyptians and the pharaohs, they didn't have time for the bread to rise.
Well, so goes the story, but I think the question is if they'd put the leavening in ahead of time and then put the bread on their backpacks and it was in a warm, dark place, it probably would have risen anyway. I think we have to realize that the story as we live it has to be one that's practical and believable and reasonable. And I think that the matzah is the same kind of unleavened bread that accompanies all of the offerings to God that we read about in the Bible. We always are supposed to simplify and get rid of the complexities in our otherwise harried and chaotic lives, and to remember that our journey to freedom is not complete until we make sure that all are free.
Also time for family, and the traditional greeting is Aziz and Pesach. Rabbi, thank you very much for being here.
To you as well. Thank you.